When you hear the phrase, say this prayer for 60 seconds and money comes in 24 hours, it may sound too simple for such a great result, but the truth of spiritual life is that God hides his greatest power in the simplest acts of faith, because faith is not complicated, it is a direct trust that the unseen God can make visible change. When you dare to believe, every miracle begins with a moment of faith. And when that moment is wrapped in prayer, heaven begins to move. Prayer is the channel that connects the believer to divine supply. It is not the length of the prayer that moves God, it is the depth of faith behind the words. When you stand before God, even for 1 minute with a believing heart, the heavens stand at attention because they respond not to noise but to faith. Filled authority. A 60-second prayer may seem small, but when it is filled with faith, it becomes a spiritual key that unlocks financial doors that no man can shut. In that 1 minute, you are not trying to convince God to do something he does not want to do. You are aligning your spirit with what he has already promised. You are not begging for money. You are activating the covenant of provision that already exists in the kingdom of God for every believer. The earth and all its resources belong to the Lord. And when you pray with understanding, you tap into that divine ownership. You are declaring, I am not bound by the limitations of the world economy. I am a citizen of heaven's economy, where there is no shortage, no delay, no lack, and no fear. This 60-second prayer becomes a prophetic declaration that you are shifting your source from human effort to divine supply. You are saying, Father, I believe that within 24 hours you can open doors that have been shut for years, because time is not barrier for you. What takes men a lifetime can happen for you in a moment. And when your spirit agrees with that truth, miracles begin. The power of this prayer lies in how you pray it. It is not a mechanical recital. It is a spiritual command spoken from the heart with absolute conviction. Your mind must be quiet, your heart must be focused, your faith must be alive. When you pray in that 60 seconds, you are not complaining about what you lack. You are proclaiming what is already yours in Christ. You must see the unseen. You must hear the unspoken. You must believe the impossible, because faith creates what it sees before the eyes can see it. When your words carry vision, they carry creative power. That power is what releases the supernatural flow of money, favor, ideas, and opportunities. Sometimes you will not receive cash, but a divine idea that will produce it. Sometimes you will not see money appear instantly, but you will receive a phone call that changes your financial story within hours. That is how heaven works. Money is not a mystery to those who understand kingdom principles. Money is spiritual before it is physical. It flows toward purpose. It responds to faith and obedience. When you say this prayer, you are not commanding money as an object. You are commanding the systems of heaven to release what has been stored for you. God has already appointed angels of supply. Their mission is to deliver resources to those who walk by faith and not by fear. And in that 1 minute, when your heart catches divine fire, those angels receive their signal to move. They begin to stir the hearts of men. They bring favor to your name. They arrange circumstances. They cause forgotten opportunities to rise again. They position you for divine connections. They make what seemed impossible suddenly easy. That is why this prayer must be spoken with expectation, because expectation is the birthplace of manifestation. You must also understand that your words are spiritual containers. When you speak words of faith, they go ahead of you and prepare the ground for miracles. When you pray for 60 seconds and declare that money will come within 24 hours, those words begin to shape the unseen. They begin to rearrange the atmosphere around you. They begin to call forth divine alignment. The Spirit of God hovers over your words, just as he hovered over the waters in creation, waiting for something to be spoken. And the moment you speak faith filled words, creation begins again around your life. What you say in that minute becomes the blueprint of what you will see in the next 24 hours. Therefore, never speak carelessly. When you pray, let every word be intentional. Let every word be filled with faith, gratitude, and authority. And when you finish that 60-second prayer, do not go back to worry or fear, because worry cancels what faith creates. Instead, begin to thank God as though it is already done. Gratitude seals the prayer. It tells heaven that you trust the answer even before it arrives. Begin to act as if the miracle has already started, because in truth it has. You may not yet see it, but the moment you prayed with faith, heaven started to move. When you hold this posture, your prayer becomes unstoppable. Nothing can block a believer who knows the authority of their words and the reality of divine provision. When you make this your habit to pray with faith, even for 1 minute, you will live under an open heaven where financial breakthroughs are not occasional but constant, where miracles of provision follow you, because you understand how to speak the language of faith and open the door of heaven's supply over your life. There is a divine mystery hidden within the heart of a believer who knows how to pray with expectation. When you say this prayer for 60 seconds, you are not just speaking into the air, you are releasing a decree that carries authority in the spiritual realm, because every word spoken in faith becomes a command that heaven must honor and earth must obey. God responds to the voice of faith, not the volume of fear. So when your words align with his promises, time itself bows to your declaration, and that is why miracles can happen within 24 hours. This prayer is not a religious ritual, it is a faith transaction between your spirit and the throne of God. It is the moment when your need meets his power, when your emptiness meets his abundance, when your faith meets his faithfulness. When you stand in prayer, your heart must be positioned in full surrender, because faith is not trying to persuade God. It is simply trusting that what he said is already true. The moment you believe that your provision is already settled, you begin to speak from victory and not from need. And that shift in your consciousness changes everything. The reason many people pray and do not see results is because their words are mixed with doubt. But when you stand before God for 60 seconds and your heart burns with certainty, your words become spirit and life. They penetrate through the unseen world and activate the laws of divine manifestation. When you declare that money comes in 24 hours, you are not demanding, you are aligning, you are giving heaven permission to release what belongs to you. The secret of this prayer is focus. You must focus not on your problem, but on your promise. You must see yourself already possessing the thing you prayed for. Your mind must not wander between hope and fear, because double-mindedness blocks spiritual flow. When your focus is strong, your faith becomes unshakable, and faith is the currency of heaven. Without faith, no transaction can be completed. So in that 60 seconds, you must speak as though heaven is listening intently. You must release words that sound like victory, not desperation. Say, Father, I thank you because my provision is already here. Thank you because you have commanded money to locate me within 24 hours. Thank you because every closed door is opening now. Thank you because divine favor is surrounding me right now. And as those words leave your mouth, angels move with speed, because gratitude is the language that summons them. It is important to understand that time is not a limitation for God. What takes a human process, months or years, can be rearranged in a moment. When divine favor enters a situation, God can compress time. He can make the impossible look ordinary. He can turn 1 hour into a lifetime of blessings. And that is why you must believe that your financial turnaround can truly come within 24 hours, not by manipulation or chance, but by divine orchestration. God works through divine speed when faith is present. Faith is like a magnet that pulls the unseen into the seen realm. The moment you say the prayer, your faith releases a signal that travels faster than light through the spiritual dimension. It finds the opportunity, the person, the favor, the connection that has your name on it, and begins to pull it into your world. But you must understand that faith without action is incomplete. After you pray for 60 seconds, you must listen for divine instruction, because sometimes God will answer your prayer not by sending money directly, but by giving you an idea, a strategy, a phone call, a direction, a prompting in your heart that will open the door to the manifestation of what you believed. For your prayer creates the spiritual condition for the miracle, but your obedience creates the physical space for it to land. That is why sensitivity after Prayer is as important as the prayer itself. You must walk through your day with awareness that something is already shifting. You must speak with boldness and expectation because your environment responds to your inner posture of belief. There is power in expectation because expectation is the energy of manifestation. When you expect something, you create a magnetic pull in the spirit that attracts what you hope for. So after saying that 60-second prayer, keep your mind full of expectation. Say to yourself, today something good will happen. Money is on its way. Opportunities are locating me. Resources are flowing in my direction. Favor is increasing around me because expectation keeps your spirit open. And an open spirit is like fertile ground for divine harvest. Doubt closes doors, but expectation opens them. And when you pray, do not measure your situation by what you see, measure it by what you believe, because everything visible began as invisible. The money you need, the favor you desire, the opportunity you are waiting for already exist in the invisible realm. Your prayer of 60 seconds is the bridge that pulls it into manifestation. The reason it happens in 24 hours is because faith collapses distance between the spiritual and the physical. Your words are seeds that sprout quickly when planted in the soil of unwavering belief. So when you finish your prayer, do not let your heart fall into worry. Speak faith continually. Say it again and again until it becomes your inner atmosphere. Keep your language consistent with your prayer, because contradiction cancels creation. If you say you believe but then speak fear, your faith loses power. But if you hold steady even when nothing seems to change, the heavens continue to move on your behalf. Miracles often appear suddenly, but they are always the result of faith that never stopped believing. That 60-second prayer is not about how long you speak, but how deeply you trust the God who hears. And when you trust him fully, even the next sunrise can bring a testimony that will overflow your heart and transform your life forever. When you lift your voice for that 60-second prayer, you are not speaking to an empty sky. You are addressing the source of all creation, the one who holds every resource, every opportunity, every door in his hand. And the moment faith rises from your heart, heaven begins to respond in perfect harmony, because prayer is not you trying to get God's attention. It is God trying to express his abundance through you. The world teaches that increase comes from labor alone, but the kingdom teaches that increase flows from alignment with divine will. Your prayer in that moment aligns you with the supernatural rhythm of provision. It causes you to step out of the limitations of human logic and into the limitless flow of divine supply. That is why when you pray with faith in that short moment, you can receive miracles that others wait years for, because spiritual alignment always produces acceleration. The prayer you pray in 60 seconds must come from revelation, not repetition. It is not about the beauty of words, it is about the purity of belief. When your heart is clean of doubt and your words are soaked in gratitude, the power of that moment becomes unstoppable. Every true prayer is an echo of what God already wants to do. You are not convincing him to give you money, you are agreeing with his will for your prosperity, because he delights in the prosperity of his children. When you say, Father, I thank you for provision within 24 hours, you are not begging, you are agreeing with the truth that your needs are already met in Christ. Your prayer becomes a declaration of possession, not a plea for mercy. It is a faith statement that changes the spiritual atmosphere around you and opens doors that were locked by fear or unbelief. Faith is a spiritual force that carries vibration. When you speak words of faith, you release a sound that heaven recognizes. It is a sound of trust, a sound of authority, a sound that cannot be ignored. That sound goes out and disturbs everything that has been holding your blessing back. It shakes the invisible walls that kept your provision delayed. It wakes up people who are meant to help you but forgot. It rearranges circumstances. It makes money move. It makes favor travel. And all of this happens when your heart and your mouth are in agreement. For that one sacred minute, you are standing between heaven and earth as a conduit of divine flow, you are drawing down heavenly resources into your earthly reality. That is why 1 minute of faith can accomplish what years of effort cannot, because it brings heaven's involvement into your earthly matters. You must understand that money in the hands of a believer is a tool for purpose. It is never about greed, it is about stewardship. When you pray for provision, you are asking not just to have enough, but to be a blessing to others, because the flow of divine wealth never stops with the one who receives it. It moves through them into the world. That is how God keeps the river of supply pure. The more you give, the more it flows back. When you pray for money in faith, you are also praying to become a vessel of distribution, and heaven honors that prayer because God looks for hearts that he can trust with abundance. So your 62nd prayer becomes more than a cry for help. It becomes an invitation for divine partnership. It is as if you are saying, Father, I am ready to be trusted with provision. I am ready to carry your blessing to others. And as you pray that way, heaven begins to fill your hands. When the prayer ends, your work is to stay in the vibration of belief. You must not let fear dilute your confession. You must carry that same certainty throughout the day. Speak to yourself and say, I am a magnet of divine provision. Money is locating me now. Favor is surrounding me now. Opportunities are chasing me now. Doors are opening for me now. When you talk like this, you keep current of faith flowing. Doubt interrupts, but affirmation sustains the energy of belief. You must learn to guard your tongue after prayer, because what you speak after you pray determines what you will see next. Your prayer plants the seed, but your words afterward water it. So every time doubt whispers, remind yourself that God's word cannot fail. Remind yourself that the power which created the universe can surely create your miracle within 24 hours. There will always be moments when your mind tries to reason against your faith, but that is when you must silence the noise by remembering testimonies of what God has already done. If he has done it before, he can do it again. Faith grows when you recall his past faithfulness, and gratitude fuels expectation. When you say thank you before the miracle arrives, you are proving that you trust his timing and his nature. The universe was designed to respond to thanksgiving. It multiplies whatever you are grateful for. So when you thank God for the blessing in advance, you attract more of it, and your thankfulness becomes the fragrance that draws provision closer. In that 62nd prayer, you are also training your spirit to move beyond time. You are learning that miracles are not limited to human schedules. You are entering the dimension of divine immediacy, where a word can turn the impossible into reality. When you grasp that truth, you no longer pray with anxiety. You pray with authority, because you know that God's power does not need permission from circumstances. It only needs agreement from your heart, and that agreement is faith. When you align your heart with his promise, you become unstoppable, and heaven begins to rearrange the next 24 hours in your favor. Suddenly a forgotten payment is released, a delayed opportunity is revived, a door you thought was closed swings open, and you realize that the prayer you spoke in faith has materialized into visible manifestation. The key is to keep your spirit steady, remain anchored in joy, because joy is the sound of victory. Even before you see results, refuse to complain, refuse to fear, refuse to speak lack, speak abundance, see abundance, expect abundance, because whatever you hold in your heart, you will hold in your hands. That is the power of a 62nd prayer. It transforms your inner world first, then your outer world follows, and when you make this your lifestyle, flow of divine provision will never stop, because you have become one with the rhythm of heaven, where every need is already met, and every desire aligned with purpose becomes an answered prayer waiting to appear. When you begin to understand the mystery behind the 62nd prayer, you realize that what moves heaven is not the length of your request, but the faith that fills it, because one moment of genuine faith can shake the heavens and rewrite the story of your life. In that short prayer, you are declaring to the unseen world that you trust the unseen God to bring visible change, and as you do this, the spiritual atmosphere begins to rearrange itself around your words. You may not see it yet, but something begins to shift in the dimension where angels operate, where divine orders are executed, And where God commands resources to move toward the believer who dares to believe, prayer is the divine bridge that connects your human need with God's supernatural supply. And when that prayer is spoken from a heart full of faith, it carries the fire of transformation that can turn a delay into acceleration and lack into abundance within a single day. That 60 second prayer is not about rushing through words, it is about releasing power. It is about speaking from your spirit with absolute focus, because faith is a living force, and it only works when it is alive. When you open your mouth to say those words, you are releasing spiritual energy that begins to travel in every direction. North, south, east, and west, your faith becomes a command that heaven cannot ignore, because heaven responds to faith like lightning, responds to thunder as you pray. You must see yourself not as a beggar, but as a child standing in authority before a loving Father. You must believe that you are not asking for what is impossible. You are simply claiming what already belongs to you through divine covenant. This confidence transforms ordinary prayer into supernatural decree. It takes your words from mere sound into spiritual law. In that 1 minute, you must pray with clarity. Speak your need, but also speak your expectation. Do not just tell God about the situation. Tell the situation about God. Declare that you are not under the control of shortage, but under the covering of divine abundance. Say it with power. Say it with conviction. Father, I receive the flow of money within 24 hours. I command every door of provision to open. I thank you that favor is working in my direction. Now, as you speak these words, something begins to align. Invisible systems shift. People begin to remember you. Opportunities start moving your way. Phone calls get made. Hearts are touched. Minds are stirred. And all of this happens because your words created motion in the spirit. The reason this prayer works so powerfully is that it awakens your inner awareness of divine partnership. When you pray like this, you are no longer passive. You are partnering with heaven. You are co-creating your reality with the Creator himself. And that consciousness is what draws miracles to you. Many people pray with fear, thinking maybe God will answer, maybe he will not, but faith filled prayer speaks from certainty. It knows that what is asked in alignment with divine will is already granted. And when you walk in that assurance, every barrier begins to bow down before you, because faith carries authority that the natural world cannot resist. After you finish that 60-second prayer, you must act like a person who has already received. You must walk with peace, not panic. You must speak abundance, not anxiety, because faith without peace is still incomplete. Peace is the proof that you have truly believed. If you continue to worry, you have not yet entered the rest of faith. But when your heart is calm, it becomes the ground where miracles grow. In the next 24 hours, keep your words consistent with your prayer. Thank God for the answer even before it appears. Gratitude becomes the magnet of manifestation. It keeps your spirit open and your faith alive, because thanksgiving says, I know it is done, even if I cannot yet see it. Gratitude turns waiting into worship, and worship into witness, because every thankful heart eventually sees what it believed. And when the provision comes, as it surely will within that appointed time, remember to use it wisely, because divine wealth is never meant to stop with you. It is meant to flow through you to others. The reason God blesses his children financially is so they can become channels of blessing. When money comes quickly, it is not only a reward, it is also a responsibility. You must ask God how to use it, how to invest it, how to sow it into the right ground, because sustained prosperity requires obedience as much as faith. And when you obey divine instruction, the flow never stops. Every time you pray that 60-second prayer, you are not just asking for money, you are reactivating the cycle of giving and receiving that keeps your life in continuous overflow. Understand also that the prayer works best when your motives are pure. You cannot deceive heaven. Heaven reads the heart, not the lips. So when you pray, do not pray from greed or impatience. Pray from trust and purpose. Say, Father, I receive so that I may bless, I prosper, so that I may serve, because pure intention multiplies divine response. God cannot entrust great wealth to a selfish heart, but he will pour out limitless resources to a heart that desires to fulfill His will. So examine yourself before every prayer. Keep your motives holy and your heart grateful, and you will always see results in that 1 minute of intense prayer. You are stepping into the timeless zone of the Spirit where everything you need already exists, and as you speak, you are calling it forth into manifestation. The laws of nature bend before the laws of faith. And that is why miracles appear suddenly without warning, because faith speaks the language of heaven. The moment you believe without doubt, the answer is dispatched. The moment you thank before seeing, the harvest begins to form. The moment you hold your confession steady, the unseen starts becoming seen. So never underestimate that 60-second prayer. It may look small, but it carries the full weight of divine power. It carries the breath of creation itself, and when you release it with faith, within 24 hours your reality can shift, your finances can rise, your doors can open, and your testimony can shine brighter than ever before, because faith spoken in 1 minute can move mountains that have stood for years. When you stand to say that 60-second prayer, you are stepping into a sacred moment where heaven listens intently to the vibration of your faith. It is not an ordinary routine. It is a divine exchange between your human limitation and God's limitless power. And in that single minute, your words become keys that unlock spiritual storehouses. When you speak with belief, every syllable becomes light, every declaration becomes energy, and that energy moves through invisible channels, preparing your 24 Our miracle to manifest faith is the bridge that connects your present condition with your promised future, and this prayer is the moment you choose to cross that bridge, believing that where you are now is not where you will remain, because God has already made a way before you even ask. This 60-second prayer works because it calls your spirit to rise higher than your circumstances. The moment you open your mouth, you are shifting your focus from lack to abundance, from delay to divine speed, from fear to faith. You begin to feel the power of divine authority stirring inside you. That authority does not come from your strength. It comes from your identity as a child of God. And when you realize who you are, you stop praying like a victim and start declaring like a victor. You begin to understand that your words carry creative force. The same power that spoke the universe into existence now flows through your mouth. When you pray by faith, you are not informing God of your need, you are activating His promise. Your words become a command that calls resources into alignment with destiny, and as you speak, heaven begins to organize itself around your faith. The secret of this prayer is intensity, not in emotion, but in conviction. It is not how loud you shout or how long you pray, it is how deeply you believe that what you say will come to pass, even if your bank account is empty, even if no opportunity is visible, even if the world calls it impossible. When you say this prayer, your heart must carry no hesitation. Faith must be pure and undivided, because divided faith cannot create unified results. If you truly believe that money can come within 24 hours, you must think it, speak it, and expect it with every part of your being. Faith is the conductor that draws power from the unseen into the seen, and the more focused it is, the faster it manifests. When you pray, you must also understand the principle of divine timing. God's response is never delayed, it is always perfect. Sometimes the answer comes through instant provision, sometimes through a sudden opportunity, sometimes through the birth of an idea that carries long-term abundance. So when you pray for 60 seconds, do not limit how God will answer. You leave room for His creativity, because His ways are higher and His resources are endless. Many expect physical money to fall into their hands, but often God gives a connection, a revelation, or a direction that leads to lasting increase. And when you obey that direction, you step into the flow of divine prosperity. Obedience after prayer is the continuation of faith. It is faith in motion, and it always leads to manifestation. After you have prayed, you must take the posture of thanksgiving. Gratitude is the seal of faith. It says to heaven, I know it is done, and I thank you before I see it. When you thank God after prayer, you are watering the seed you planted, and that gratitude becomes the environment where your miracle grows. Every time you say, thank you, Father, for financial overflow. Thank you that my supply is on its way. Thank you that doors are opening for me. You are reinforcing your faith and attracting your manifestation faster because the language of heaven is gratitude. Complaining closes doors, but thanksgiving opens them. And when you stay thankful, your heart remains in harmony with heaven's rhythm of abundance. In this journey of prayer, you must also guard your atmosphere. What you think, what you say, and what you surround yourself with all affect your faith. If you pray for provision but speak fear the same day, you block the flow. So protect your confession. Surround yourself with words that match your prayer. Speak victory even when you do not yet see results, because words are containers of power. Your financial miracle is traveling on the waves of your speech, so make sure your words carry faith, not doubt. Speak constantly in agreement with what you prayed. Declare money is coming, favor is coming, opportunities are coming. My name is being remembered today. My doors are opening today. Because every declaration you make becomes a magnet that pulls divine supply toward you. And while you wait for the 24-hour turnaround, remember that waiting in faith is not passive. It is active expectation. It is preparing as if the miracle is already arriving. It is acting on the belief that what you asked for is on its way. If you prayed for a job, prepare your documents. If you prayed for business provision, plan your next step. If you prayed for debt cancellation, begin to organize your finances, because action shows belief, and faith without action is incomplete. Your movement tells heaven you are ready to receive, and heaven never disappoints a prepared believer. Finally, as you see the results of your prayer, remember to honor the one who made it happen. Do not keep the testimony to yourself. Share it, bless others, use your increase to bring light into dark places, because the purpose of abundance is to extend God's goodness through you. When you live with this understanding, you will find that provision never stops, miracles never cease, and the flow of heaven becomes continuous in your life. The 60-second prayer will no longer be a rare moment. It will become your lifestyle, because you will learn that every breath, every word, every thought can be a prayer of faith and gratitude that keeps the river of money, favor, and opportunity flowing toward you daily. This is how heaven responds to the voice of faith, not by chance, but by divine law that says, according to your belief, it shall be done. And when you believe completely, 1 minute of prayer can open a lifetime of provision. There is a realm of faith where words become realities, a realm where what you speak with conviction manifests with precision. And that is the realm this 60-second prayer invites you into, because prayer is not a religious exercise. It is a transaction between divine power and human faith. Every time you open your mouth to pray, you are not speaking into emptiness. You are programming your future. You are setting invisible forces in motion that carry your request into manifestation. And when you pray for 1 minute with complete focus, believing that money comes within 24 hours, you are not practicing superstition. You are activating a divine principle, the law of faith, that says what you believe and declare shall be established, and it shall come to pass. This prayer works because it carried the vibration of authority that was given to every believer to command circumstances and not to be controlled by them. When you pray with the confidence of someone who knows their spiritual rights, heaven recognizes your voice as the voice of dominion. You are not a beggar in the courts of heaven. You are a child with inheritance access. Your words are not petitions, they are decrees. Your prayer is not a cry of weakness, it is an announcement of victory. And when your voice carries that boldness, angels respond instantly, because the language of faith activates them. They go forth to arrange meetings, to unlock opportunities, to bring resources from unexpected places, and to make things align that seemed impossible before. The secret of the 60-second prayer is not in the length, but in the concentration of belief. It is not how many minutes you spend, it is how much faith you release. Within that time, faith is spiritual electricity. The more charged your spirit, the quicker the result. When you focus your entire being, heart, mind, and words into that single minute, you are creating a spiritual explosion that pierces through resistance and moves mountains that have been standing in Your way, you must see yourself as a generator of divine power. When you pray, every doubt, every fear, every negative thought must be silenced, because these are the forces that drain spiritual energy. When you pray, you must become one with your words. You must see what you say, feel what you declare, and believe what you imagine, because faith sees the invisible and brings it into reality. The reason many do not see results is not because heaven is closed, but because their faith is divided. They speak in prayer, but contradict with their thoughts. They ask for increase, but expect delay. They declare provision, but imagine lack, and so their spiritual current is broken. But when your faith becomes one stream, one flow of conviction, you become unstoppable. Your words carry weight, your prayer becomes fire, your declarations become law. And that is when the impossible starts bowing before you. Within 24 hours, God can rearrange the hearts of people, touch minds, influence systems, and cause things that were sleeping to wake up in your favor, because faith bends time and compresses seasons. What was meant to take years begins to happen within a day. When you pray, you must also understand the principle of alignment. Your faith must align with your intention, and your intention must align with divine purpose. God releases provision where there is purpose. If your reason for asking is rooted in selfless faith, heaven will pour without measure, because divine supply flows to where it can accomplish divine good. So, before you pray, align your heart. Ask yourself, why do I need this money? Is it to serve a higher good, to meet a need, to advance something positive? Because heaven releases resources into pure motives. When your desire is right, your faith gains wings and flies faster, because divine intention empowers divine response. In that 60 seconds, you must pray from the center of your being, not from your mind, but from your spirit. Let your words carry fire. Let them sound like certainty, not like question. Let them resonate with gratitude, because gratitude is the frequency that matches abundance. Say, Father, I thank you that my supply is already on its way. I thank you that before this day ends, I will see the evidence of your provision. I thank you that all resistance is removed, and every door is open as you speak those words. Visualize it, see it happening, feel it happening. No, it is happening. That is the power of faith. Imagination, it makes the unseen tangible, and faith pulls what is seen in that imagination into physical manifestation. After you pray, stay sensitive, because answers do not always appear as money. Sometimes they come as ideas, sometimes as instruction, sometimes as opportunities disguised as challenges. So listen closely to the voice of wisdom in your heart. When a thought of action rises, act on it quickly, because obedience is the bridge between prayer and manifestation. When you obey divine nudges, you cooperate with the miracle you prayed for. The 24-hour promise begins to unfold step by step. Your prayer releases the seed, your obedience cultivates it, your gratitude waters it, and your expectation harvests it. And that is the full cycle of supernatural supply. Never underestimate the power of that 1 minute, because time in spirit does not move like time on earth. 1 minute in prayer can equal a lifetime of effort when filled with faith, because in that moment you are connecting to eternity, and eternity does not need time to perform, it needs faith. When your faith touches eternity, the impossible becomes instant, delayed becomes delivered, the hoped for becomes visible, and what you once called a dream becomes testimony. So every day take that minute of faith, make it sacred, make it powerful, make it full of fire, because that minute is your meeting place with heaven. And if you guard it, honor it, and fill it with belief, heaven will honor you with miracles that arrive swiftly, abundantly, and repeatedly, until your whole life becomes a testimony that 1 minute of faith can change everything, and that God truly delights in those who dare to believe without wavering.